students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. Today we are doing lesson 11 in our course 3 Saxon book. We're talking about percents, which means parts out of 100. And percent indicates a denominator of 100. 100% or 100% or 100% equals one whole. So you might see 100% any one of those three ways. They all mean the same thing. So let's talk about 25%. 25%, the little percent symbol, is 25%, meaning a denominator of 100, which will simplify to 1/4. So here's a picture. 1/4 is the same thing as 25%. 50% is the same as 50 over 100. Remember, percent means parts out of 100. So 50 parts out of 100 is 50%, which will simplify to 1/2. 75% is the same as 75 over 100, which will simplify to 3/4. 5% is 5 over 100, which will simplify to 1/20. Let's do example 1. Okay, so this is example number 1. Write as a simplified fraction. 1% is already going to be simplified when we just write it as a fraction, 1 over 100. There's no way to simplify that at all. But 10% is 10 over 100, which is, if we divide the top and the bottom by 10, we get 1/10 in its simplified fraction form. And 100% is 100 over 100, which is equal to 1. Okay, so its simplified form is 1, and we need to write it as 1 because 100% is 1. Okay, so then example 2 says we're going to go the other direction. Write each fraction as a percent. And I didn't write the fractions. Here they magically appeared. So we're going to change 3/4 to a percent, 3/5 to a percent, and 3/100 to a percent. So our first step in changing to percent is to make sure we have 100 in the denominator. What would we have to multiply 4 by to get to 100? Well, the answer is 25 because there are 4 quarters in a dollar. So we're going to multiply by 25 over 25, which gives us 75 over 100. And once we get it into that form, then to make it a percent, all we do is take off the 100 and put on the percent sign. Okay, so 3/5. What would I have to multiply 5 by to get to 100? Well, I would have to multiply by 20. So I'm going to multiply by 20 over 20, which gives me 60 over 100. And 60 over 100 is 60%. And the last one is very easy because 10 needs to be multiplied by 10 to get to 100. So I'm going to multiply by 10 over 10, which gives me 30/100. So I take off the 100 and I put on the percent sign. So notice that in each case, 25 over 25, 20 over 20, and 10 over 10, each one is a number over itself, which is 1. I'm only multiplying by 1. Because I'm multiplying by 1, I'm not changing anything but the form of the number, not the value of the number. So here's an example for our example. In other words, I'm going to show you how to do the next example. If we were going to take 2/3 and turn it into a percent, one way to do that would be to multiply by 100%, because 100% is 1 and it would give us the percent sign that we want. So 2 times 100% would be 200%, and 3 would just be 3. You can think of this as 100% over 1. And then 200%, we have the percent sign, so all we need to do is this math right here to put it into the proper form. So 200 divided by 3 when we do long division is 66 2/3. 66 2/3% is the answer. So let's do an example. Okay, so in example 3, we're going to turn each one of 3 fractions into a percent. So we're going to use the method we just talked about. We're going to multiply by 100% over 1. 100% is 100 over 100, which is 1. So then that's going to give us 1 times 100% is 100% divided by 3. So now we're going to divide 100 by 3 and then just tack on the percent. 100 divided by 3 goes 3, which is 9, and 1, which is 0, and 3, and then 3 gives me 9. And then I keep on going over and over again. So I'm going to get, but I'm not, instead of going 0.33, I'm going to put 1 remainder, 1/3. So 33 1/3%. We want it in fraction form, not decimal form, because it would look weird. That decimal is just going to keep on repeating. But 33 1/3, and then we tack back on the percent sign. Okay, so then the next example is 5/6. So we're going to multiply by 100%, which is 1. And then we're going to end up with 5 times 100 is 500% over 6. So now we have to divide 500 by 6. 6 goes into 50 8 times. 8 times 6 is 48. Bring down the 2 and the 0. 6 into 20 is going to go 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18, which is going to give me a 2 and a 0. Okay, but since I'm already done, I'm not going to bring down anymore. I'm not going to do decimals. I'm going to take the 2, divide it by the 6, and 2 6 is the same as 1/3. And then I'm going to tack on the percent sign. Okay, 83 1/3%. And the last one on that example is 3/8. Again, I'm going to multiply by 100%. And then the 100% is going to give me 300% on the top, 8 on the bottom. I've got my percent sign. 300 divided by 8 is going to go 3 times 24, 60, and 60 is going to be 7 times, which is 56, which leaves me with a 4 eighths, because I'm out of whole numbers here. So 4/8 is 1/2%, 37 1/2%. Okay, so here we are in example 4, and we're to write each percent as a simplified fraction. So 4% would be 4 over 100. But 4 will go into both 4 and 100. So I divide by 4 on the top, and I divide by 4 on the bottom. So I'm going to divide by 4 and 4 to get it as simple as I can get it. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 100 divided by 4, think 4 quarters and a dollar, is 25. So 1 out of 25 is the simplified fraction. 40% is 40 over 100. Well, I can very quickly just cancel out a 0 on each one. So 4/10 does simplify. If I divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2, I get 2/5. So 2/5 is the same as 40%, and 40% is the same as 2/5. 33 1/3% is a little trickier. First, let's turn it into an improper fraction. 33 times 3 is 99 plus 1 is 100/3%. Okay, but now because of the percent, I just multiply the denominator by 100. So I take off the percent and multiply the 3 on the bottom times 100, and I get 300. So now, can't I cancel 2 zeros on both of those, top and bottom, and get 1/3? So our job is to become proficient at turning percents into fractions and fractions into percents. We need to be able to go both ways and do that. Okay, now we have a word problem. 40% of the 30 students rode the bus. So of, remember, means times. So 40% of is times the 30 students. So that's what we're really doing, 40% times 30. Now 40% is 40 over 100, which can simplify by a 0 and a 0 easily, times 30 over 1. And can't the 10 on the bottom and the 30 on the top cancel each other out? Divide by 10, divide by 10, leaving a 3. This one was just a 1, wasn't it? So now we end up with 4 times 3 is 12. And on the denominator, we just have 1 times 1, which we can just do without. And there were 12 students that rode that bus. And that was example number 5. Okay, this one is example 6. A quart is what percent of a gallon? Well, if we know our math, we know that there are 4 quarts in a gallon. So 1 quart is 1/4 of a gallon. So don't we need to change to find what percent? We need to take 1/4 and turn it into a percent. So 1/4 is equal to, I'm going to multiply to get a 100 on the bottom. 4 times what gives me 100? 4 times 25. So I'm going to multiply by 1. 25 over 25 is 25 100ths. So 25 100ths is the same thing as 25%. We have the little percent sign. I ran out of room. 25% is the same thing as 1/4. Okay, so now we are starting our practice set, which is mandatory for my students to have on their paper. So you need to pull out your packet and make sure that you are writing in the correct spot and copy all of this down, showing all the work, and you will have part of your homework done. So we're going to write as a percent, 4/5 as a percent. That means we need to get 100 in the denominator. When they're very easy like this, we don't need to worry about multiplying by 100%. We're going to do that on number C, on letter C, because that one's a little bit more difficult. But I know how many 5s are in 100. There are 25s in 100. Okay, so I'm going to multiply by 20 over 20. And 20 times 5 is 100. And 20 times 4 is 80. So now I'm going to turn it into a percent by taking the 100 in the denominator and using the percent sign instead. So we're going to get 80%. And I didn't have much room to do that. 80%. I'll write it a little better here. Okay, 7/10 is pretty easy because 10 needs to be multiplied by 10 to get it to 100. So we're going to multiply by 10 over 10, which is 70 over 100. And now I change the 100 into a percent sign and make it 70%. And that's all there is to that one. So now we're going to do C, which write as a percent, but 1/6, 6 does not go evenly into 100. So we're going to do this the other method, which is multiply by 100%, which is 1. 100 over 100 is 1. So we're just multiplying by 1. But when we do that, we automatically have our percent sign. So we're going to say 1 times 100 is 100% over 6. So now all I have to do is this little bit of math right here. So 100 divided by 6. 6 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 6, 40. 6 into 40 is going to go 6 times 6 is 36. And we're going to be left with a 4 again. Okay, so I'm not going to take it out more because I'm done with my whole number portion and it would be a decimal. So I'm going to take the 4 and divide it by a 6 and put the remainder as a fraction. 4/6 is the same thing as 2/3. Okay, so we're going to write 16 and 2/3%. And that is C. Now let's look at D. Now our instruction is different. We're going to take each percent and write it as a simple fraction. So 5% becomes 5 over 100, but we know that 5 is a factor of both 5 and 100. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So 5% is the same thing as 1 over 20. 50% is the same thing as 50 over 100, which, when I cancel out 2 zeros, I get 5 out of 10, which we can divide the top and the bottom by 5, and we get 1/2. So 50% is the same thing as 1/2. Okay, so 12.5%, we're to turn this into the simplest form of a fraction also. This one, we're going to go ahead and turn the 12.5 into an improper fraction. So 12 times 2 is 24, plus 1 is 25/2%. But now we're going to take the percent and remember that that means divided by 100. So we're going to multiply the denominator by 100. And we're going to take that off and make that 25 over 200ths. Okay, so doesn't every 100 have 25 in it? So we could divide by 5 and divide by 5, but it'd be faster if we just realize, 100 is 25 divided by 4, so 200 must be, I said that wrong. 200 is divisible by 4 8 times. Okay, so we're going to divide by 25, and we're going to divide by 25. I think I said it wrong even again. So this is what we want to do. I can't say it right, but I'm doing it right. Okay, so 25 divided by 25 is 1. And 25 will go into 200 8 times because 25 goes into 100 4 times. And there's 200, so it's 8 times. So the fraction is 1/8, even though it took Miss A a little while to get there. Okay, so let's look at G, and we're to arrange these least to greatest. Now, this is pretty simple because these are all percents. So wouldn't 3% be less than 35%, would be less than 75%, would be less than 100%, because 100% is 1, isn't it? So 75%, let's see, 3% is the smallest. We're going from least to greatest. 35%, 75%, and 100% is last. Now, why was that so easy? It's easy to compare fractions that have the same denominator. It's also easy to compare numbers that all have a percent on it because they are all in the same form. They all have 100 as their denominator. So all you have to compare is what's in front of the percent and put that in order, and then you're golden. All right, let's look at this one. This one's a little bit trickier because we have fractions and percents mixed together. Okay, so sometimes maybe on this one it would be easiest to make a number line and think about this a little bit. Okay, so I know that all of these are less than 1. Okay, that's a proper fraction, a percent that's less than 100%, therefore it's less than 1, a percent that's less than 100%. So I'm going to put 1 here, I'm going to put 1/2 here, and I'm going to put 0 here. Okay, now 1/2 is in the middle. I know it's in the middle, but I don't know that that's the smallest or the least. So we already know where this guy belongs. He's right in the middle. But what about 33 1/3%? Okay, we have to think about what does 33 1/3% turn into as a fraction. Or we could go the other way and turn this into a percent, and then we would have a comparison. 1/2 is 50%. So we already know where 50% is, okay? And 1/10, now let's think about it. If we took 1/10 and we were turning it into a percent, wouldn't we have to multiply the top and the bottom by 10? So we'd get 10%. So we're going to write, instead of 1/10, we'll write 10%. So now we put them all in percents instead of all in fractions because percents are easier. Okay, so 10, then 33 1/3, then 50%, then 65%. Okay, so we'll put them on here. 1/2 is the same as 50, and we'll just put 50% down here so we can see it. And 33 1/3, that really is a third, so we'll put it about here. So we'll say 33 1/3%, and then right here we'll put 10%, but we can't write 10% because they gave us 1/10, so we'll put 1/10, which is the same as 10%. And then 65%, well, it's probably about right here, 65%. Okay, so the order is 1/10, then 33 1/3%, then 1/2, which is 50%, and then 65%. Okay, so here we have practice problem. 3 of the 5 players scored more than 10 points. 3/5 is what percent? So remember, we want to get the denominator to be 100. So we're turning it to a percent. We'll just stick a percent sign over there. We're going to multiply by what to get the denominator to 100? We're going to multiply by 20. So it has to be 20 over 20, which will give me 60 over 100, which is the same as 60%. Aren't those fun? Okay, J. This is our last practice problem, and we're about to start our written set. Janice scored 30% of the team's 50 points. Okay, so the team made 50 points and Janice scored 30% of those. How many points did she score? Okay, so we're looking for 30% of, remember, of always means times 50. Okay, so we can do this two ways. I'm going to do it the easy way. I'm going to turn 30% into a fraction. 30% times 50 over 1. Now, doesn't 150 have a common factor of 50? So 100 divided by 50 is 2, and 50 divided by 50 is 1. So all I did was divide by 50 and 50 on the top and the bottom. And then I have 30 times 1 is 30, and 2 times 1 is 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So Janice made 15 points. So I'll just go ahead and write 15 here since I'm out of room. Janice scored 15 points. Okay, so now we're doing problem number 1 in your problem set. So hopefully you've had your packet out all this time, copying these down and showing your work. Okay, in number 1, it says there are 1,000 envelopes in unopened boxes in the office closet. If one box holds 250 envelopes, how many boxes of envelopes are in the closet? Okay, so there are 1,000 envelopes altogether. They're in unopened boxes, so there can't be pieces and parts of them. One box holds 250. How many boxes? So, wouldn't we want to divide 1,000 by 250 since there are 250 in each box? So, 1,000 divided by 250. 250 doesn't go into 10 or 100, but it does go into 1,000 4 times. 4 times 0. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 is 10, and there are 4 boxes of envelopes. Okay, we're going to do a few more problems, and then you're going to be done and ready to go on your own. Okay, so we have problem number 2, and it says a dump truck delivered 4 cubic yards of sand for the playground. The sand weighed 5 tons and 800 pounds. How many pounds of sand were delivered? Now notice that Mrs. A just went to the book and read the problem in the book, and you have the book problems attached to your packets. I wouldn't have known what to do just looking at a piece of my workbook. You must go to the book to read the problem. But here's the important info, and I want you to decide if it's important or not. They told us that there were 4 cubic yards. Do we ever use that information? They tell us they're 5 tons and 800 pounds, and they only want to know how many pounds of sand. They were giving me a piece of extra information, maybe to kind of confuse me, I don't know. But I really do not need to know how many cubic yards of sand I have at all. Okay, I do need to know, and you can find this on page 37 of your textbook, that a ton is 2,000 pounds. And if 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, then 5 tons would be 2,000 times 5. Okay, so 2,000 times 5 would be 1,000,000 pounds of sand, plus the 800 over here, 800 pounds of sand. So altogether, I have, with the 5 tons, which is 10,000 pounds of sand, and the 800 pounds, which I add to it, I have 10,800 pounds of sand. That's a lot of sand. Okay, number 3. Let's read number 3 from the book. The heights of the rose bushes in the garden are 98 centimeters, 97 centimeters, 100 centimeters, 109 centimeters, and 101 centimeters. What is the average height of the rose bushes in the garden? Okay, so average height, I need to add these all up and get a sum, and then I'm going to divide the sum by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I add them all up and divide by how many I have, which is 5. So we're going to add 98. I really should have done it this way, right? So I'm going to do it this way. 98 and 97, 100, 109, 101. Okay, so let's add all these up. I have a 9 and a 1, which makes a 10, an 8 and a 7, which makes a 15, plus 10 is 25. So I'm going to put down the 5 and carry my 2 up there. Okay, so 0, 0, 0, 9 and 9 is 18, plus 2 is 20. I'll put down my 0 and carry my 2. 2, 3, 4, 5, 505. Well, now that's a very nice number to divide by 5, because 505 divided by 5 is going to be 101. So the answer to number 3 is 101. But don't forget to show your work on your packet. So I'm going to be looking for the work, not just the 101, right? Okay, so number 4. Let's read it in the book. It says, identify the plot, write an equation, and solve the problem. Tucker purchased comic books. He paid with a $10 bill and received $3.25 in change. What was the cost of the comic books? Okay, so now for plot, you can say this is subtraction. That's fine. They use plot kind of in a different way. Okay, so plot, you're having to subtract. That's fine. Equation, we should have 10 take away 325 equals what? Or we could say 10 take away what is 325. We could do it either way. Okay, which one's easiest though? Isn't that what we're looking for? We're looking for the difference between them, and that's going to be the answer. Cost of the comic books is what we're looking for. So we're going to take the $10, subtract what he had left, and then we would find what he spent. Okay, so how do we do 10 minus 3.25? Okay, so let's get a clean board so that we have a little space, and say 10, and I'm going to put 2 zeros to make it $10 with zeros for the cents, minus 3.25 also in money. Now, when I'm subtracting, don't I have to come over here and say, okay, I have 10, make that a 9, make that a 10, make that a 9, and then carries over. Okay, so we end up with 9, 9, 10 is what we end up with. So 10 take away 5 is 5, 9 take away 2 is 7, 9 take away 3 is 6, and it makes sense because I want you to always think about, does your problem make sense? 10 take away 3, if it had just been $3, it would have been 7. But then we have to take away an extra quarter. So it's $6.75. And that was problem number 4, and we have one more to do on your video. This one is a fun one to finish up our video with. We're going to use prime factorization. This is number 5 in your book. Using prime factorization, simplify 60 over 72, show your work. So we're going to take 60 and we're going to prime factor 60. I know that 60 has a 2 in it, so 2 into 60 goes 30 times. And 30 has a 2, but it also has a 3, and 3 is easier. 3 into 30 is 10. 10 is 2 times 5. So remember, when I'm writing my prime factors, I always go least to greatest. 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. Okay, so now we're going to factor 72, which also has a 2, leaving me with a 36. Divide by 3, and I'm going to get a 12. Divide by 3, and I'm going to get a 4 and a 2 and a 2. So again, I'm going to go 2, 2, 2, 3, 3. So 2, 2, 2, 3, 3. And all of those have little times in between them. So now I'm going to get a different color just to make it a little clearer. And we're going to cancel out like factors. So 2 and a 2 down here, a 2 up there and a 2 down here, a 3 up here and a 3 down there. So 5, and then on the bottom we have 6. So we're going to get 5/6 for our final answer. So let me write that down. 5 on the top. 2 times 3 is 6 on the bottom. And 60/72 is 5/6. We are done with this lesson, and I hope you will go and do a good job on your homework. This is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.